Hi, I'm Tarnya and I am a publisher. In 2018, that's when I started my company. I am married, I have two children, and with my publishing company, I help individuals to find their voice.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi A14, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
Pen their stories and publish their books. And I'm also an author and self-published 3 of my own, which are available on Amazon.
All right, that is very interesting now. So, because here we talk a lot about our origin, where we are coming from. So, were you born in England or did you come to England at a point? You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I was born in England. With my mom raised me, single parent. So yes, I was born in England.
All right, that's cool. Is there anything you want to tell us about maybe your childhood there, how you were growing up? Because we like to know about the story of people. Because of course we are talking about story, and so instead of just jumping into, hey, I do this and do that, we want to know you first. Who are you and where are you coming from? So tell me a little bit about your childhood in England. Let's know something about you.
Okay, so growing up in England, I do share a little bit of my story in my first book, Open Doors, which is about my journey. And it all started in the 70s. My mum was 16 and pregnant with me, and she was told to leave home, and that was her beginning. And I want to encourage people, as we share our stories, that our beginning doesn't have to be our end. And I grew up, I had low self-esteem, lack of confidence, and I struggled with those things. But as I went on in journeys, listening to the positive affirmations of my mom, the encouragement, it helped me to get through and overcome. And this is why I'm here today, because of the encouragement of my mother. And our beginning does not have to be our end.
That's great. That's interesting. That's really interesting. So you grew up in Manchester, right?
I grew up in Birmingham,
Birmingham. Okay.
England, and then I moved to Manchester 20 odd years ago.
So how was Birmingham for you as a young adolescent? Tell me about what you see around you as you are growing up now in Birmingham.
In Birmingham, it was nice growing up. Went to school there, went to college there, had great friends, but I had this lack of self-belief. So I was just like a wandering generality, as one of the quotes said, be a meaningful specific, not a wandering generality. But that was me for some time, just wandering around because I didn't believe in myself, not sure, can I do it? Can I achieve the things that I really wanted to achieve? But there came a point in my life where I thought, yeah, I can do it. And it is about my own self-belief, getting out of my own way and doing the things that I wanted to do. So I had a great upbringing in Birmingham, and then I moved to Manchester to study to be a teacher. I went to university and I had a career as a lecturer for 15 years.
All right. Um, what did you do about that? Your what do you call it? Limited belief that you couldn't believe in yourself, that you could do it, or things like that. What did you do about that?
That is a great question. And one of the tools that I used, I borrowed the belief of my mom until I believed in myself. And there was a lot of positive affirmations that my mom would share with me. And it was keep saying those every morning, every night, and believing in it until you actually, something shifted and thought, do you know what? If I want to see a result, positive results in my life, I'm going to have to do some things differently. And that's what occurred for me. And then I started to make those shifts and started to see positive results.
So at a point, you were also a lecturer at the university, right?
So I started off in a school for 7 years teaching ages 14 to 18, teaching there. And then I moved to helping the unemployed in education, getting them educated. And then my last place of employment, I was an associate lecturer for Sheffield Hallam University, working at USEN. And that was my last place. And that's when I decided in the summer of 2018 that I handed in my notice. I was overworked, underpaid, overwhelmed, and I stepped out of that job to pursue my entrepreneurship journey.
All right, entrepreneurship journey. Let's spend some time here. Now, what do you do in your entrepreneurship journey?
Okay, so it all started in the pandemic, where it really hit off. Before that, I was doing lots of workshops in the community for businesses, doing speaking engagements, and then I took the opportunity during lockdown to take up Les Brown, who is the #1 motivational speaker in the world. He was doing a coaching program, how to make your voice to have a greater impact in the world. So I did some coaching with Les Brown. It was about 3 or 4 months with that. And then I did some more coaching with John Tellerico, which he's also based in America. And that was a 6-month journey on mindset. And it's a Bob Proctor program. And then now I do lots of speaking engagements internationally, all over the world on podcasts. And now that the world's opening up, I've been out traveling, which is great. I'm also an author. I have 4 publications on Amazon, and I'm also a coach. I'm a book coach, and I also like to help people to get unstuck and to live their purpose. And I'm also a publisher.
So the pandemic actually did brought a lot of bad things to the world, but it also helped people to find themselves. I remember when the issue first break out, I started to do a lot of interview, talking to different people to learn about their stories from Canada to UK, US, in Africa. Try to ask people, what are you feeling? What is going on there? What I found out at the certain point is that some people were actually using it as a moment of regeneration for themselves, because let's just say we have been overworked, like you said, no, at that point, 2019 going forward, then the early 2020. So this has really been a moment of people to do a kind of a reset for their life, no, shifting their attention from just busy to try to ask yourself, what are you busy about? No, what are you busy for? What is actually the essence of life itself? Because we have taken the focus away from us for a very long time. I think this moment of being locked down, being locked out or locked up in a place where you are up by yourself now. Okay, if you have a family, you are with a family. If you don't have a family, you are off by yourself. At that moment, what happened? What do you do? So, of course, some people they started to complain. Okay, I'm just locked in here. What can I do? I don't know what to do. Yeah, some people were confused, but some artists. I remember a lot of artists that I talked to. They actually did a kind of a really drastic change in their life, in their journey. At that moment, they give you the time to reflect and to think. Then you evaluate what you are doing. Some people brought out a lot of project from it. So it's going to stay with us for a long time, the consequence of COVID-19, both in the bad side and also in the good side. But because this has been an important period for you too, because you use it to sort of recreate yourself, because you brought a business out of it, I want you to tell me what you were doing throughout the period of the lockdown. Let me understand that.
Wow, I was doing a lot of things. I'm married, I've got 2 children, so they were being schooled through the lockdown, so it was helping them with their education, which was very important. But also I was working on myself, being coached, hiring different coaches, and I'm still have a coach today. So I really strongly believe in being coached, because you can't see the full picture when you're in the frame, and they help you to propel you and push you more forward and get you there quicker. So I invested in coaches like Les Brown, John Tellerico. I've also joined a great coaching group in America called Life on Fire, which helps you to fire up your business and just go for it and take action. And through the lockdown as well, I wrote a couple of books. The Simple Way to Get Motivated, which is to help people with their mindset, and my latest book, which is Planet C Anticipating, which was endorsed by John Tellerico and Les Brown. John Tellerico wrote the foreword, and Les Brown endorsed the book, which was great. So I used my time to work on myself, and then look at what is it that I want, and to develop my business, helping people to share their stories.
Tell me a bit about this training program that you did with Les Brown. And I think it was a couple of days ago. I was talking with a person in Trinidad and Tobago. So she was telling me that she also did a program with Les Brown.
Oh.
So Les Brown now is becoming, of course, it's a very popular voice in the industry. No, it's one of the best actually in the world. So yes, tell me, what kind of program did you do with him, and how was the program itself for you?
It was an amazing program. It was called The Power Voice. He no longer does that. He does something else now. But he did The Power Voice. And he was just saying to people, if you want to make your voice heard, to amplify your voice, and to have it in a way that it will draw attention to people, they will stop and listen. And that if you want to make an impact in people's lives and inspire others, this is the program for you. So I joined it. It was a group coaching program, and it was absolutely brilliant because it was every single Wednesday for like 3-4 months, because we did go over because we enjoyed it so much. And it was midnight here in England, and I love my sleep, so that was a bit of a sacrifice for me to get up, to stay up and do this coaching program. And every single week he'd teach us how to share your story, how to make an impact, how to amplify your voice. And we had the opportunity, out of 200, 20 of us was chosen, and I was one of those, to speak on his platform, which is over 1 million people. And it was 15 minutes in sharing our story. So that was a highlight for me of that program.
Story, that is important. I think that is, according to several scholars, it's actually what separates us from many other species, of course, apart from the fact that, okay, we do have our build physiognomy, our biology and the rest of it, but our ability to tell story actually make a lot of difference. So what is actually the importance of storytelling? Help me understand. What did you find about that?
People can relate to your story. It's relatable. And knowing that you've been through something, even as a lecturer, I used to share my story with my students that I overcame some things. I've been through some stuff, but I didn't stay in that place of, disappointment or low self-esteem. I did something about it. And the great thing about storytelling is that you can share with people the tools that you used to get through whatever you're getting through, or whatever challenge you've gone through, whatever you've overcome, and sharing that with people and giving people hope. And that's the main thing, is giving people hope, giving them a survival guide that other people can follow. If you can, if I can do it, you can do it. And that is the main thing.
All right. If I can do it, you can do it. Right. If I don't know anything about storytelling, about story and how to use it, where should I start from?
You think about your own personal story and think about the challenges that you've been through and how you can overcome. And oftentimes people will always say, people will say to you, how did you get through that? Maybe a certain aspect of your life. You don't have to share everything, but there could be a defining moment in your life where you had the test, the turning point, and now you're here at this point. So it's about thinking, what aspects of my life can I talk about? And if you can list them all down if you wanted to, and then look at the struggle that you were in, what was the turning point for you? And then how did you overcome? And that's a great place to start.
Okay, but what about the technique, the style of how to actually pull this story together? One thing is to know what you want to say. Another thing is to know how to say it in a way that it can make sense to people. Because now, most of the information that we are talking about in our life, in our coaching business, in whatever it is that we are doing, particularly in the knowledge industry, all this information are actually there already, but you have a way of packaging it, of repurposing it, of redefining it, of resharing it, that make it unique. Not everybody know how to do that. How should people learn that, so that by the time they tell this story, even though they are the same old story, it makes sense and it catches people's attention? Help me with that.
That's a great question. For me, I can only say what worked for me was getting a coach a coach, not any coach, but obviously someone like Les Brown, wherever you are, and you can reach out to Les Brown because he is still doing that type of thing where he's helping you to train your voice to make a greater impact. But finding a coach that can help you with storytelling, and they will teach you the techniques. There's James Melanchek as well. He's part of my coaching group. He's a phenomenal guy. And you can reach out to people like that and don't think about the upfront cost. Look at the return on investment. And that's really important. So me personally, I would reach out to somebody who is a coach in storytelling. There's James Melanchek, there's Les Brown, and there are other people. Do your research, do your homework, research people, and reach out to them to help you with the techniques on how to share your story so you can make a greater impact.
All right, thank you for that. Now, before we talk about your business, what you do, I want us to go back a little bit because you said you were having not believing yourself, and things like that when you were much younger. But of course, you learn how to overcome this by undergoing some training, helping yourself, and now you believe yourself. That is why you can coach people. Now, when you were much younger, what would you want to have happened to you so you will have those maybe not believing in yourself and things like that?
Another great question. For me, growing up, I think a lot of stories we create in our heads. So not growing up without a dad, that maybe have had an impact. Maybe the things that people would say, like negative words, and holding on to those words, negativity. And oftentimes we do hold on to the negativity. We remember the bad things that have happened, and we can replay them in our heads. And that was me growing up as a child, replaying the negativity. But as I said, there came a point where enough was enough. If you want to see a different result, you're going to have to do some things differently. And having faith, that helped me through, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that was a great affirmation for me to keep repeating to myself to help me get through and overcome some of the challenges, some of the barriers that were presented in my early days.
All right. You're a mother now. You're a mother of 2 children. I don't know how old they are, but anyway, that is not important. Now, when you look at young people in UK, maybe particularly of the African descent, because that is where we are concentrating more of our story on. What do you see about their believing in themselves?
Great question again. You've got some good questions today. My children, by the way, are 20 and 15. So it all depends on who their circle is, who they're around, and their upbringing, and whether they believe in themselves. With me, my children, I often encourage them, giving them lots of belief in themselves, getting them to explore things, to be that greater person. But it all depends with young people. Who are their role models? Who are they reaching out to? Who is in their circle? And oftentimes I think that because they feel that they're young and they place this age limit on them, that can I do that? And I think it's the school system as well that doesn't place that emphasis on greatness, entrepreneurship, and all of those things. So it's all about your belief systems, who you are around, and are you receiving that encouragement? And because sometimes I feel that young people place emphasis on their age, that they can find it difficult. But once they're exposed to great role models, people that they're hanging around with, things that they're watching and reading, then that they can then change the narratives.
Yeah, right. That's important now. That's very important. Because if we can change the information that is coming into us, then we'll be able to have a better projection of the kind of world we want to build for ourselves.
Definitely.
All right. So, what do you say of Les Brown about his ability to influence you? Because you have been a student of his. So, I want you to tell me about the impact you got from him as an instructor, as a person, as a motivator. Basically, that is what he is. He is a motivator.
Yeah. He is a motivator, and he absolutely motivated me and put the fire in me to be able to say that your story, no matter, you don't have to have this dramatic story, you're abandoned, dropped on your head as a baby or whatever. You don't have to have those types of stories. It can be anything. But as long as, because Les Brown always says, no test, no testimony. We've all been tested and we've all been through something. And that's what made me think about my story and my sphere of influence. Because I'm not going to, everyone's going to connect with me and my story, the way I speak or whatever. But the people that I do speak to, when I do speak, it's going to reach people who it's meant to reach. And that's what Les Brown taught us, that when you speak, people are going to hear and listen. You're going to interrupt their story, interrupt their thinking, and allow them to pay attention. But the most important thing is making them, then once they've heard your story, is making changes in their life. So that's what Les Brown done for me, is motivated and inspired me to keep on sharing my story, to make a greater impact in people's world, to interrupt people's thinking so they can make different choices and do different things and really go after the things that you really want in life, because it is possible.
It is possible. We must believe that power of possibility.
Definitely.
All right. Talking about business, talking about what you do. First of all, tell me, what do you do for people in terms of business, in terms of helping them?
So how I help people is when they come to me, some people have a story that they want to share, whether it's in the form of poetry, whether it's their personal story, and they haven't written it yet. Some haven't written it yet. So I help them to find their voice. And I do like a 90-day program. It's called the Authors Lab. And we go through 90 days in mapping out your story. What do you want to share? Why do you want to share it? What's the message? That's the key thing. What's the message? Because we want to bring a message of hope to people. We want people to take action. So that's what I do first of all with them. And then we will then put it into a form of a book. I have a team of editors, formatters, cover designers who will then make your story shine. And then they pen their stories, and then we then publish their books. And that's the great thing, is if you don't know what to do or how to do it, that's where TC Publishing come in, and we help you to pen that story, which is very important. And some people do have a story already written, but we then go through it to make sure, what's your message? Is it clear? Who do you want to help? And that's the most important thing. And then TC Publishing will then get to work on your manuscript and get it published. And it's really important, because the main thing is they're holding their dream in their hands, and that's the main thing.
Pen your story, or pen down their story. I want you to spend some few seconds there explaining that to us. Is it that you help them to write the story, they narrate the story from you, from oral narration, then you transfer that to digital narration, where you transfer what they say into text, and therefore maybe transfer that text into a book that they can hold in their hand, or you teach them how to transfer the thought they have in their head into text, a manuscript that you can then publish for them? Let me understand that part, please.
Okay, just to clarify, penning your story, I'm not going to do it for you. You're going to do it. So I help them, like you said, with the thoughts that are in their head, get it onto paper. It's like a brain dump. Get it out of your head and onto paper. And then we will do like a map of what is it that you want to write? What's the theme? Why do you want to write it? Who's it going to impact? What stories do you want to share? And then we will do all of that over the 90 days. They come and meet me on Zoom fortnightly. And it's about accountability. Making sure that they do it, making sure they're writing, get into a routine, get into structure, the accountability, and doing all of that for 90 days. And they are putting it all onto paper. And whether you write it on paper, whether you type it on a laptop, whether you can speak to your laptop and it's got a dictation button and it does the process a lot quicker, whichever way you're doing it, as long as you're getting it out of your head and onto paper. And then after the 90 days, we will look at your manuscript and then start sourcing it out, the relevant, the chapters, the subheadings, the conclusion and all of that, making sure it's methodical and it makes sense.
All right. It makes a lot of sense what you're saying. But how do you know what type of story is going to work so that people don't waste time on it? Or is it any type of story that you can work with? Let me understand that.
For me, your story has to have a message. I remember someone came to me and, the story was about revenge. That's not going to help anybody. It's about making sure that your story has a message of hope, a message of overcoming, whether it's through poetry and it's those calm, soothing words that can help people, whether it's an affirmations book, it has to have a really key, strong message. And that's really important to TC Publishing House.
So you follow these people through the process of getting their story out of the world, their head, so that it can become a book that can therefore become an economic product, in that you can then sell it and then make money from it, right?
Well, to the money part, I always say to my clients, putting it on Amazon is great. It's credible. You've done it. Not many people write their stories. Apparently 8% of people actually write their book, which is, if you want to take it further and earn even more money, which I call turning your book into a business, then I suggest whether you do speaking engagements and you sell your books at the back of the room, whether you do workshops and then sell your books, whether you attend events. So there's other ways that you can make money. Sticking it on Amazon is not necessarily going to make you millions. You're not Oprah, you are not J.K. Rowling. So there are other ways that you can make money turning your book into a business.
Okay, so some of these ways, like you said, it can be maybe like speaking engagement, and maybe having a channel to be able to reach people, of course, because if you don't have the audience, it's going to be difficult to market it at the end of the day. Do you want to talk about who should write a book? I mean, who should write a story? Is it any type of person? Of course, like we have here, for example, you will read it on that. Everyone has a story to share. That is our mantras here, and we really do believe it. But okay, that is a spoiler. So you're right. You happy people. Is it any person that is able to write, that is able to share a story, or there are some individual who should, okay, well, man, you can just forget it and next.
I like that. Yeah, I believe, just like your mantra, everyone has a story. And some people don't believe that. Some people say that their story is too dramatic, no one's going to believe them, or nobody's interested in my story because it's been told so many times over. But the key thing that I tell people is that your story could be told. Many people haven't been brought up with a dad like myself. Many people have been born to teenage parents. But at the end of the day, how I write is different from how another individual is going to write. A different perspective, a different outcome. So it's really important. Don't listen to those voices, those messages in your head. I say, when those negative words come, I always say, tell that committee in your mind to shut up and sit down. I do believe everyone has a story. I had an elderly gentleman come to me and say he wants to write his story, and it's a great novel. And I was like, that's awesome. It was about his childhood growing up, and he went to a particular holiday, and it really impacted on him, and he really enjoyed it, and he wants to turn it into a novel. Great, brilliant. There's someone else that came to me. They do poetry, and they want to tell their stories, or how COVID impacted them in a positive way, and they write it through poetry. So there's different people that will do different things in different forms, but I encourage people, get your story out there.
All right. Now, looking at it again from the point of view of business, why do you think people come to you to help them get their story out? What is the reason? Why not go to other people? Why did they come to you?
People are searching, and they come to me because they don't know the process of publishing. They don't know what it involves. They just think, I've done a manuscript, or I've written the book now. Can you publish it? Is it out? Could it be out next month? And that's not the process. There's like a quality check behind the scenes in doing books. So I don't think people understand the process of publishing, what it actually involves, not just for the publisher, but also what it involves for them, because it's a journey. They want to get the end result, which is holding their book in their hand, but they're going to get the journey. It's the journey on the way to the book. They have to going to relive some things. They're going to have to realize that they haven't healed from a certain aspect that they're going to share. And they have to be patient, because the book's not coming out immediately, because it has to be formatted, edited, and checked, and those things. So that's why I think people come to me, because what do I do next? What's next? That's the great question. What's next? I've come to you now. What's next? And that's how I can help people with the what's next and getting their book out.
All right. And what does book publishing really involve? I mean, somebody that is looking at it from the outside and want to understand this, because it can also be a business model that somebody want to go into like you. So what does it involve? What are the things that you are doing at the back office that people don't know, that without this there is no book publishing? Help us understand that.
Oh yeah, yes, there is a lot to publishing, and one of the things is patience. Having patience with people, because many people that I work with, my clients, they've been through some things and they're still healing. And if you're rushing the process with them just to get their book out, it's not going to work, and the relationship can break down. So it's having patience with people, understanding that they've been through something and you're helping them on a journey. And oftentimes my clients say I'm like a counselor to them as well, is counseling them through their story. Sometimes they've had to pause because it's been so painful and they've realized they haven't actually healed from that. So it's helping them through that. And also it's building a team, a strong team that's going to help you with the processes. You've got to have editors, your formatters, your cover designers. You've got to have a strong team to be able to then fulfill what the client wants, which is obviously their book, and then understanding all the mechanics of Amazon and how that works. How do we get it onto Amazon? So it's about training. So that's really important. And I do go on to a lot of publishing training events to help me better myself so I can serve my clients better.
Why should someone even write a book? Why should they bring the book that they have in their head out so they can have it? Why? What is the purpose?
The purpose to write your story and get it out there is to leave a legacy. Once you've documented something, it's there in print forever. And God forbid you pass on, your children have it, your children's children have it. It will be in libraries, because when you publish books, you have to put them into the British Library. And it's going to be there documented forever. So you're leaving an amazing legacy behind, and people can understand your story, who you are, and what you do. And then it's a blueprint. It's a guide for other people to follow. You know, Tarnya, I've been through X, Y, and Z. Why don't you read my book? That will help you. And it's like, wow. And so it's also helping people get through and overcome certain things.
That's great. Now, people write books. What if someone were to consider it as a business, that they want to write maybe book 1, book 2, book 3? I'm trying to see, is it a kind of a business model that can be sustained? Can you really make money writing books?
Wow. So yes, you can make money, but it's the model that you're going to use. Like I said, just sticking it on Amazon, you're not going to make like thousands and thousands. You may do, but there's other models that you can use. Like I said, for myself, my book, Planet See It, is also a coaching program. So every time someone signs up to my coaching program, they receive a free copy of my book. I do lots of speaking engagements, and then at the end, I sell my books. I go to events and have my own TC publishing stand and sell my books, and I sell my clients' books. Then I put on my own events. I like to do the author's breakfast, and I sell my books. Then people may want to buy them in bulk. You can go to schools and maybe do some sort of curriculum with them, after school clubs, and then they can buy them in bulk. So there's different ways. And then also turning your book into merchandise. So I've got it behind me, yeah. I've got a t-shirt behind me, Planet See Anticipate It. I have a mug, I've got a notebook, I have lots of merchandise relating to my book. So it's about turning that into a business.
That's interesting. It's very interesting. You're a writer. What is the message of your writing?
Mainly my message of writing is about motivating people, inspiring people, and the key thing is taking action, because we can hear wonderful, great things. This podcast, this platform is amazing. You can listen to it and then you can switch it off, but it's about taking that action. You could be really inspired listening, not just to me, but to the other podcasts that have gone before, and you think, do you know what, I want to take action. So that's what I like to talk about, is taking action, taking that one step at a time. We may not have the full vision of what's going to take place, but it is about taking action, taking those steps getting out of your own way. And that's what I encourage people to do, because I've done it. I set out of my career in 2018, and now I've built amazing business, and I have amazing people that I work with and work. So those are the things that I really encourage people to do, is just to do it, and it will work if you work it.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel writing a book? Does it have any sort of inner satisfaction for you, or is it just for the money?
It's not just for it's not for the money. If I relied on Amazon, I would go back into my lecturing job. But for me, I get to travel around the country with my books and sharing my story and helping people to take action. Because from when I speak, people have taken action. A lot of people have come to me and then afterwards writing their stories, which is empowering. I remember speaking at an engagement where it was women that have been through trauma. And one of the ladies reached out to me, two of them reached out to me and said, I want to write my story about being abused, being in coercive, controlling relationships, how I broke free and how I can help other women. And subsequently, because of that, they both have written their stories. And they're, one of their books now is on Amazon, and she's now speaking around the world on podcasts. She now has merchandise. She's now working with schools and helping them on curriculums. And that just satisfies me, because I've played a small part in inspiring others. So that's what, for me, why I write, is to inspire, to motivate and make a greater impact in people's lives.
Did you start like this, or was there a time that you were not a writer? I want also to take us to a process. What helped you to become a writer? Can anyone write?
I believe anyone can write. It's about your own style, because sometimes people can compare themselves. I can't write like that person or like that person, because you're not meant to. You find your own writing style. My writing style is very blunt and frank. I don't use all these fluffy words. It's just straight to the point. But that's how I like to write. And I've always written as a child. I remember growing up as a child, writing things out. I loved reading from a very, very young age. So that's where it started for me. But it can start at any age. My mum's in her 60s, and she's now a 3-time author. Her books are on Amazon, so you can start at any time.
What is the satisfaction for you? You write a book. What if nobody buys, for example?
I love that. What if nobody buys your book, Tarnya? Even if one person bought my book, I'm satisfied, because I'm being obedient to God. Write that book. For example, Planet C, Anticipate It, is all about how to set goals and take action, because 92% of people don't know how to take action, how to set their goals. So this is why I wrote it, to help people. It has templates in there to help people to do that. So when I do my speaking engagements and people say, I want to buy your book, I take pictures with them, and then I get them to contact me and ask me, how has it inspired you? How has it helped you? So even if it's just one person, I've done my job. But I'm just being obedient, writing that book. And I may not travel the world, or you may not travel the world, but your book will. And it will inspire and impact other people.
That's true. That's true. Now, what about the marketing? What do you want to tell me about the marketing of your books? Because now it's good. I was just making a joke that, okay, maybe what if nobody buys? But at the end of the day, as authors, we want people to buy our books. But that depends also what kind of marketing strategy are we adopting, are we applying? But if we just finish writing the book now and we put it in our shelves, okay, nobody's ever going to know and nobody's going to buy. So tell me about the strategy to get it to sell more books.
Well, that is a very, very good question, because a lot of authors sometimes think, the marketing. But if you think about, actually, I want to just share my message. And that's a great way to look at it. Instead of marketing, it really can paralyze people. But it is about sharing your message. So there's lots of different ways that I say to my clients that you can do. But you said a key thing there. It is important not just to put it on the shelf, because no one's going to buy it. No one's going to know. It's about that know, like, and trust. So you've got to get out there into the marketplace. Now that the world's opening back up, it's about getting to events that are in line with your book, putting on your own events. And then you can hire a marketing person, a PR person. I've done that. For my author's breakfast, I hired a marketing person. Then I got on different radio stations, got in different magazines and newspapers, spreading the message. And through that, I've had people then sign up to my publishing company. So it is making sure that you have a marketing strategy. If you're on social media, doing lives, getting it out there, the great thing is word of mouth and speaking to people, having your book in your bag. And, you're talking to someone, say, oh, I've written a book on that. And, you can share with people, having your business card, contacting organisations and companies of where you can speak, do book signings. Just spoke to a client last night who's in America, and her book's coming out on the 7th of August called Heart of a Warrior. And I said to her, what do you want to do next? Because it is about, for me, what's next? I want to do book signing. Great. Have a strategy and get out there.
That's great. Get it out there. All right, now, for people that want to connect with you, tell them how to connect with you and what are the benefits of connecting with you. Please go ahead and do that.
So to connect with me is really easy. You can email me at Tarnya, Tarnya, at ibelieveIcan.co.uk. So you can reach out to me there. You can contact me on social media. I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, Tarnya Coley. And the benefit of that is you can have a free 15-minute consultation with me where you can share about your book idea and I can give you some tips and strategies on what you can do next.
Now, what would be your final thought here? What would be your final statement to conclude the conversation?
My final statement would be, plan it, see it, anticipate it. If it's in your heart to write your book or it's in your head, get it out of your head and onto paper and just do it. Plan it, see it, anticipate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening and talk to you in the next episode.